So, kind of give you a quick demo of how this is going to work. You guys see me in that picture, right?
Yep.
So I should be orange, red, and yellow. And everything around me should be somewhat blue or black.
Yep.
Okay, so this is set up to black, cold, white, hot. So really what we're looking for are blue and black things to move on their own across something that's going to be a little bit warmer than that, obviously. So the past couple of weeks have been tremendous with this guy, which was great because I wasn't getting much activity from it. It was just nice to have it the ready. And it's another piece of audio. So it does record the entire thing again in case something goes wrong with the audio piece, which just happened the other night. We are missing the full first hour of the tour. Luckily, we had this guy recording the whole entire thing. So this is set up with a FLIR. I'm sure you're familiar with that name, especially since you've used this before. Oh, it's going to fluctuate, by the way, based on whatever's inside the screen. So the camera attachment's here on the other side, so it's probably going to, it's always got a slight delay to it. There we go. So again, now the orange, red, and yellow is going to be on the wall. You put me back in the picture. Now that orange, red, and yellow is going to turn blue. Did I just hit something? No. All right, so the red square means that it's recording. So keep it on the square. That way I don't have to splice any video together. I can do it. It just takes a little bit longer. Yeah. So you're going to hold that all night long. I do have different types of thermometers that will test if that's debunked or proven. Okay. So as we go through, and again, this is kind of a quick, let's just get some devices in your hand and get to our locations. You're going to get a little bit more hands-on with the first location because it is haunted. It just doesn't have a long history. Just an easy place to learn about your photos.
Okay.
Oh, luckily.
This is a lot lighter than what I've held.
Yeah, because the other FLIRs, like there's guns. And...
Well, the ones that I've seen are like attachments that go on night vision goggles.
Oh wow!
So they turn it into it's white phosphorus, so it's not as there's not as much color in this as the one that I've seen, but they're white, so everything is, shows up as white, and then when you see heat, it's black.
See, I didn't want to do that because it's going to give you literally every cold spot, and people that aren't used to looking at it are going to be like, oh my god, there's something something over there.
No, this makes a lot more sense when you're looking for something that's not a human being.
Exactly. So again, you're going to see, and we're going to talk a little bit about thermodynamics too, just to kind of make sure we're on the same page. I give everybody the same lesson because you can also see thermodynamics in reverse, which is really cool too. It's just as good of evidence of finding a cold spot.
Yeah.
Spirit boxes. So I do have 3 different styles of spirit, technically 4 different styles of spirit boxes. Okay. This one's my favorite because it records. Okay. It's basically, do you know how these things work, right? It's just a white noise, as Zach Bagans told you, what he thinks he heard. Right. This one's a little different. Yeah. All the bullshit he thinks he heard.
Yes.
It said kill me, it said my name. Yes. But yeah, this is going to be, it's the radio station.
It sounds like us watching him.
I know.
He's constantly got a stomach ache or his back hurts. He's got some major...
And we're going to talk about that kind of stuff too, because that is legit.
Well, I know, but he's just
over.
And it always happens right after someone else has had some sort of a thing. And then it's like Zach has to have a bigger thing.
Yeah, because he's a character. That's all it is. So this is going to speed through all the FM stations quickly. Okay. I have it slowed down. I'm not Zach where I just want white noise. I want the radio stations to come through. I want the song lyrics, the DJs, the commercials, all that stuff to come through. So if you can make anything out, great. If not, it's recording. I'm going to listen to it in the morning. Right. And here's the thing about what I'm going to go through with your data. I'm not going to go through all of it because it's going to be about 5 hours worth of data. I'm only going to go through it for about 2 hours, and I'm going to go sporadically. So if I find whatever we heard in real time, great. I'm going to make sure you get the marker for that, but I'm also going to put the other things that I find. So again, kind of think of this thing as Bumblebee from Transformers. Okay. How he talked through the radio. Did you see the movie? Yep. Sorry, I make a lot of movie references.
No, you're good. You're good.
Something new. Going backwards, we're going to experiment, see if backwards does anything different than going forwards. So
I've never seen a radio do that.
Well, these are set up specifically for that. These are actually made by a company called Ghost Stop. Okay. So they designed it for guys like me. If you don't need any attached speaker like the SB7 you see on TV and they hold one extra thing, you have one button you need to worry about. It's a turning wheel at the top where you control the volume. It's already recording. The great thing is it doesn't record any outside noise, so it won't hear us. And even when it's on mute right now, it's recording. So when you get your recording back in the morning, it's a nice even level of volume.
Oh, cool.
It's beautiful. So even when I'm telling stories and I'll say, let's go
Yep.
ahead and cut that down,
Yep.
no worries. We're going to listen to it in the morning.
Okay, cool.
That one's yours.
Okay.
So this guy is my new toy. Look at that, I set it up perfectly. All three devices.
Nice. Nice.
So this is a millimeter / REM pod / EMF. So what is it designed to do? Technically, it is supposed to measure EMF, which is any kind of electromagnetic field. Your TV shows will use a K2 meter. I have one of those. I may even put it on the outside of the bag. But nobody ever explains what those actually do and why they work. Because there's 3 different types of electromagnetic fields. The TV shows love them because there's no separating of those fields for them on that particular meter. So that means any cell phone, parking meter, wires in a building are going to make it go off, and to them that's important.
Right.
You know,
Right.
this is going to separate it a little bit. It is pretty sensitive with the REM pod. Now the REM pod is designed that it's going to create an EMF field around this antenna.
Okay.
So if something breaks it, as far as an electromagnetic field, then it's going to make a noise.
Okay.
So really what it's,
Okay.
kind of see how that works? So now something else is here. So I reset it back to base again. This guy is going to measure ambient temperature. This is why I have to play with it. So the ambient temperature is going to be at the bottom.
Okay.
So right now it says it's 50.8, and it is, again, super sensitive. I'm surprised it's not dropping even further than that because of the wind. So we'll see how it goes tonight. So again, while I'm telling stories, I'll shut off the REM pod just to kind of save face with it, just because it does get really loud and annoying, and you don't need all that stuff on your recording until we're actually investigating. But we just started this building for a specific reason. This place used to be called Big John's. Big John, this was back in the 70s and then all the way back to the 50s. So Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants, and he owned this place, but it was also named after him. So he used to sit in the back of the bar, and he would let the bartender know if the cadets that came over from the Citadel, if they were of age or not. If they weren't, they'd tell the bartender, get them out of here. He's the boss, right? So one night, 2 guys come in, they're not old enough, they leave, pretty pissed off. They come back the next night and they try to steal a cash register from the front of the bar. Big John sees what's going on, they get into a little fist fight on the floor, a couple of shots were fired. John gets shot in the neck and the bullet ricochets and lands in the wall. So after John's done beating these 2 guys up, he goes back to the bar and he tells the bartender, get me another beer, go get them an ambulance. Now, nobody died in that story. So what's haunting the place? It's the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. They're renovating the place right now, so I'll have to double check once it's done. But this is the only place I've ever gotten EMF from a K2, randomly, not even night after night after night. It's like, oh, one night here, a month later, another night. I constantly go in and check the same location. For people that sit in the front of the bar, they're a little queasy, nauseous, headaches, dizziness, those kind of things. I bring it up on purpose. It's one of the reasons why we started here. If you guys feel any of those things, I need to know. It's a big deal.
You know, the funny thing is that I have a friend who lives upstairs,
Really?
and I have been there several times, and I have felt sick every single time I've been there. Every single time.
Not surprised. Have they said anything about any of the
No.
story that I just told you? Okay. Well, now you can tell them, or let them listen to the recording. So,
That's interesting.
now the cool thing is if we get anything related to Big John, I'll be
Yeah.
able to send you links back to, like, look up the story. Like,
Okay.
it's always going to be
Yeah.
a link back.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing. I'm probably going to have to use this all night too. So this is a spirit box that I set up for another person, and I haven't used it in a couple of weeks because my tours have been pretty full. I haven't had to. But it's a spirit box on my phone. You're going to think, oh, wow, great, one of them. But it actually works really well. It just, keep going to the wrong folder. Where the hell is it? There it is. So it's going to give us a word from time to time in the middle of the screen. And I'll turn the volume down so it's not annoying because it does make weird chirping noises and whatever. So the word will show up here and we're like, oh cool, it gave us a word. And then it saves them to a list. So the cool thing is, like, there's over 100 terms for my last tour, whatever day I did that. We're going to clear them out and start you guys off fresh. 80% of what shows up here is absolute bullshit. It doesn't mean a damn thing.
Yeah.
So it's the 5 to 20%.
Yeah.
Might be like 1 to 5 terms that are going to be relevant to the location of where we are, and they're going to be specific.
Okay.
I'm not going to go for generalized terms of like, he died. Okay, great. Who
Right.
died?
Right.
I want a name. I want a jersey number. I want something specific.
Okay.
So again, I'm not going to make stuff up, but I will give you the whole list. Here's why. you know how many text messages and emails I get that says, my cat's name is Radar, and Cat Radar was in the list. Well, I don't know that about you guys.
Right.
It's always something specific to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know that stuff. So, with me trying to handle 2 devices, this will just stay on my clip. I'll pull it out from time to time and kind of see where we're at.
Sweet.
And again, it'll just run.
Okay.
So, again, you'll have that full list. Sorry, I forgot all about that because I haven't had to use it. I set up a separate phone to give to somebody else because everybody wants to use the stupid phone app versus an actual tool. I'm like, guys, this is the cool shit.
Right.
So, the other big story here is that this is allegedly, if you didn't already know, we had a big earthquake here in 1886. So it's a big one for us because it's Charleston and we don't have earthquakes. So the big one here is the fact that the mantle also wraps around the front of the building. A piece of it broke off and killed somebody, and allegedly that's the first death that occurred from that earthquake.
Huh.
So I don't have any proof of it. It's just a nice story to get your mind off that you might get sick from this tour. So, yeah, because I get the moms that look at me. I'm like, I brought my 5-year-old. I'm like, you'll be fine. Like, I actually carry stones with me. Everything keeps everything grounded. Like, we'll be fine. So, anyway, you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Absolutely.
Did I explain everything thoroughly enough?
Yes,
If
sir.
not, you're going to learn more on the next location.
No problem.
So let me
No problem.
try to zip this crazy bag up.
So the only question I have is, what's the best way to use this for looking on? Do you just use it wherever you look, it looks, or
So,
what do
again,
you suggest?
what I normally suggest is that you have a person in view at all times.
Okay.
Only because our skin temperature is going to be warmer than anything else out here,
Uh-huh.
and you need a baseline. So with that baseline, you know, I showed you the wall, how it's mostly one color.
Uh-huh.
The more you flip that, the more difficult it's going to be.
So it's I just didn't.
Well, then stop it, hit
Okay.
the red square, and then to YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube doesn't like the flippies.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll just splice it together the
Okay.
right way.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I caught you flipping it. I was like, all right, cool. Now at least I caught him. So, but like I said, I normally keep somebody intact at all times.
Okay.
But again, with every location, it's going to be a different theme because of the type of location.
Right.
And by the way, if you're expecting sightseeing, you're on the wrong tour. This is ghost hunting, folks.
No, we're good.
All right.
We're good.
You seem very in tune with this. I love it.
Yeah, we enjoy watching lots of stuff. And so we've only been on two or three?
3.
3 tours. And the funny thing is that
I think Deadwood was the best. Like,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
I obviously can't count this one out, but because we haven't been
just the
through
ones
it.
we've done so far.
Yeah, out of the 3, the
Deadwood, South
Deadwood
Florida.
was the coolest one because it actually felt like you were like the feeling sick stuff. It wasn't like the prison. It was nothing. Like there wasn't. At least for me,
I
it
got a
didn't.
little bit of photo.
So one of the pieces I had coming in, I already have a digital camera, and I've been using near infrared. I've been experimenting with that, but I have an infrared light coming in that'll attach to it. So again, it'll look super techy when I hand it off to somebody.
Yeah.
Because normally I hand somebody a digital camera, they're like, really? But
Right.
what they're doing is because I use laser grids. So laser grids, you can see where they land, but you don't see anything in between them until something passes through it. So literally they're a team. So every major tool has a team member. So like for you, you would have the person with the different thermometers. For you would probably have the person with the EMF, so you guys know where to stop and ask questions.
Okay.
But the digital camera, like, it's usually with the lasers.
Right.
So it's not the most exciting tool because you can't really see anything until the next day.
Right.
But that's usually the mom and dad that only brought their kids because the kids bugged them to come. So
Right.
like, I gotta give mom and dad something to do. So where are we? This is the Red Barn lot. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of parking lots tonight because it gives us a chance to explore. That's one of the main reasons why I chose the locations, not to mention they're all haunted. This is where we keep your horses for your carriage rides. The horses are inside that barn. They're probably a little chilly tonight because those windows don't have glass in them to keep it obviously aired out. So your spirit box, we're going to keep it audible to us only, especially if we get near that Red Barn at all. So that way we're not spooking the
Sure.
ponies. So the only history I truly have here is that this is the same Red Barn that held horses that delivered milk to Charleston. So whenever I tell you a history or something about a person, there's always going to be emphasized words. So it's almost like you have to pay attention so you know what you're listening for and watching for on my spirit box. So delivery and milk are two big terms, right? I don't care about Charleston. You're going to hear that through every radio station. But delivery, milk, protein, calcium, those kind of things. Let's talk about the spirit box before we get into the more sciencey stuff of that. This is not Zach Bagans' TV show. This is not, is somebody here? Right? Because if somebody says no, that means somebody's here. So we're going to stay away from yes and no questions altogether. There's always a way to reword it. If I catch you using it, I'll be like, all right, let's reword it. How can we think of something else?
Okay.
So I'm going to be testing your brain skills. We're going to start off, like, I want you to think of this entire time with me as almost like a training course. So this is novice, right? So what color is the barn? We all know that it's red unless you're colorblind. Sorry, but now I'm telling you it's red. You thought it was purple. I'm sorry.
Just ruined my day.
I know, right? So it's literally a question of what color is the barn? And we know that it's red, or they might not have the right word to tell us. So we might hear like fire truck, cardinal, things that are specifically red, right? And things you wouldn't normally typically hear on a radio station. So it would make sense, like, oh, it's not Y103. You know, it's this, that, or the other. In the event that we don't get an answer after 2, 3, 4 tries, because you always want to keep attempting the same question. You don't want to, oh, what color is the barn? What's inside the barn? What's next to the barn? You don't want to try all those things all in sequence.
Sure.
You want to stick with one question. Give them time to muster up that energy to really work through what they can find. But if we don't get something after a few tries, what's inside the barn is probably your next best question, because horses, hay, delivery is a key term, calcium, protein, eggs, milk, like anything that's dairy would probably make sense as well. And I've had all of these terms come up before. Now, if they're just wanting to answer your questions, those are the kind of answers you're going to get. But if you hear a number, it could be a jersey. If you hear a first name, it could be a football player that played with Big John. Do I have all those stats memorized? I don't. I got to look this stuff up the next day. So if you hear Frank, 79, shit, I got to look up Frank and see if he was number 79. I don't get excited with one device going off either.
Right.
So I'm going to have to pull that EMF meter out, I think, just so we have a point of reference. But if it goes off, I'm like, okay, it's going off. Let's figure out why.
Yeah.
And then I know to definitely listen or watch a little bit more closely on your video. So we talked about the baseline with yours, right? So let me show you a quick video just so you kind of have a gist of what you're looking for. And let's look and see what words we have. So it's sodium. I wonder if they delivered salt. So there's something I got to look up. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do.
Sure.
So the video, we're at store now. Sorry, I placed everything on Facebook. Let's go to the evidence folder. I have an evidence folder, so when people are taking pictures, all their pictures get uploaded to Facebook just to save space on my website. Where is it? This guy. So this is the next location we're going to. So this is all this orange is a wall. You see the 2 living people above the wall. They're walking past it. Let me rewind it. Did you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. You're going to see 2 dead people going the opposite way past the wall. I shouldn't have done this version. So let me right about there.
Okay, is that?
So I've had this analyzed. Firemen, mechanics, people that use this tool on a daily basis. Cars are too far away, can't be a vehicle. And the fact that the dude was in view the entire time, right here, gives us the baseline. That's why I tell people to do the baseline.
Anything?
Yep. So what we found when we did this frame by frame was that there are 2 heads there. It's an arch. So it's 2 people, they go past the lamppost and come out on the other side. So again, they called me up there because they thought they saw some shadows, and I went up there to debunk it. Like, you just don't see shadows. You know, that's not something common I hear on my course.
Right.
So I was like, let me kind of go up there and see what's going on. So I went and looked at the video the next day, and I was like, oh snap, they probably did see something. Because that was after, because I was up there talking to them, like maybe saw something come off the lamppost, or, you know, car flashed, or high beams, or whatever. You know, just trying to make sense out of it for them. And they're like, okay. I'm like, well, look at it in the morning. And, you know, I don't want to discredit, you know, the fact that you think you saw something. So I'm going to pull out that EMF. You can go ahead and turn that up, and let's get that this question started. So there's a little wheel next to the button. There you go. There's 3 other.
What color is the barn?
go back out to the farm. Did you hear that?
Uh-huh.
So they do rotate those horses out to the farm. just so
Right,
you know.
right.
What's the giant case?
What color is the barn?
That's not the easiest thing in the world to handle.
What color is the barn? Is it
You hear
green?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm colorblind.
It also could be a football player. Last name Green.
Oh, okay.
So again, I'm constantly thinking,
Right.
what could it be related to?
Right.
If it's not anything, it's not anything.
Yeah.
But in real time, I will always try to connect it. This is the EMF meter, so
Okay.
it will obviously doing a little something right now. But I always look for rhythms first. Those are your man-made objects. So I don't see any kind of rhythm because it keeps going down to green. Nothing in the bag is on, so it just seems a little off. But I usually keep that facing out so we at least have a point of reference and you guys can see it when it's smaller groups like this. Never annoys all the other tour guys.
What's inside the barn?
I want you to also keep in mind we have 4 pieces of communication out right now. So between my audio, his audio, and the 2 spirit boxes,
Oh, yeah, they
the
make
answer
yours
can go anywhere.
Anywhere.
So a lot of times what I'll do is, because when I have a group of 10, we kind of spread out a little bit.
Right.
Because there's another loud spirit box. I'm like, don't stay next to each other.
Right.
They spread out. And I'll ask if somebody's hanging out with us, tell me how many people I brought with me.
Uh-huh.
And somebody will turn around and said, you said the number 6. I'm like, okay, cool. How many people are here? Well, there's 6. Well, there's 7 of us total. I'm like, yeah, but don't include me. 6 is a very specific number because I said how many people got to bring you with me.
Right.
So I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get answers that way. Pretty cool stuff.
That is cool.
Do a dance.
What's inside the barn?
I'm really super interested to see if horses actually delivered salt too. Like that would make complete sense.
I heard rope.
I did too, but
Yeah.
Rope or
yeah,
road?
rope. I
Rope.
heard rope.
Okay. Can you tell us what kind of horses are in there? So you know the breed of those horses are draft horses. So I'm listening for the word draft. Alright, so you guys basically have the gist of what
Yep.
you're supposed to do, right? You guys ready to learn some real history?
I do have a question before we continue.
Yeah.
On the video that you showed, it's not as blurry as it is on this one, and I didn't know if that's normal or not for
It
these
actually, I
guys.
mean, it fluctuates
Okay.
constantly.
Because it's been this consistent blurriness since you.
And that
since
camera's
you
also
left.
been dropped quite a few
Okay.
times since then.
No, it's all good. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
I didn't mess
It's
something
funny,
up.
somebody
So
else asked me that, I want to say last weekend. do need to replace it. I've had it just over a year now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those are not cheap.
Yeah. So I imagine that you have. Do people take pretty good care of your stuff?
But for the most part.
Yeah.
That's why I'm also very careful on who gets what.
Right.
So I kind of, like, as I'm talking to you guys, telling me about me, I
Right.
kind of watch to see how all of you react. So some people just aren't in tune, or I
Right.
can tell, like, they're just not into it. They're not getting a $300 camera.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if I want to get them excited, sure, I'll hand them a $50 spirit box.
Right.
You know what I mean? If anything, the masks keep me warm.
Yeah. Right.
One thing I noticed, so on cooler nights I do way better with them.
Yeah.
Because it's actually keeping me warm. But I'm horrible with these things. Like when we had to start doing this,
Yeah.
it was constantly gagging. Like I can't. If you notice, mine's real short.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law makes it. She knows I have a gag complex.
Right.
So she made it short.
Oh,
So,
nice.
So I can move them on and off very quickly. People are really weird against that. I guess it was Friday. Alright, so welcome to the Pinckney Mansion site. It's just a parking lot now, obviously. But this is where Charles and Eliza Pinckney lived. So who the hell were they? They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. There's 3 Charleses in case you were counting. The son and the nephew, signers of the Constitution. The father, obviously a very big political figure, but I hate politics. Let's talk about Eliza. She's way cool. And it's Women's History Month, by the way. So I actually proud myself on the social media stuff I did around this point. So anyway, Eliza got me. By the way, this is also where the video that I showed you guys, it actually occurred right up in that corner. They organized the lamppost in the center. So Eliza married Charles at a very young age. There was a big age gap between them. Notice I'm not giving you answers here. This is stage 2. Okay, that was stage 1. So she got married because her dad thought he was dying over in England. She didn't want to go home. He wanted all his kids home. She said no. So instead she got married. He didn't give her citizenship, but it said that she wasn't going anywhere. Dad gets better, so Eliza was right. And he starts sending over wedding gifts. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. Now, you've been here since October. I'm sure you've seen the word indigo a few times. Indigo, it makes blue dye that makes your blue jeans blue. You're wearing it right now. It started right here, which is super cool. So
That's cool.
her garden was over here and came all the way across. Now we already had indigo in South Carolina. Nope, sorry man.
I don't. Sorry.
So, where was that?
The garden.
Oh, well, indigo was already here. So, with the Gullah culture, that's basically the slaves that came over straight from Africa. They were part of that culture. She had slaves that were part of that culture, so she learned from them how to keep that plant cultivated in a very weird temperatures. So, when it became a huge thing here, she moved it over to Sneed Farm in Mount Pleasant. I don't know where you live now, but oh, okay. So you're somewhat Mount Pleasant,
Yeah.
right there on the cusp. So Sneed Farm is right off the Long Point.
Yep. Yep.
So it's obviously neighborhoods now because we turn everything into a neighborhood. But she moved it over there and it became a huge cash crop, which was great because our rice plantations were going downhill. So rice plantations were pretty much keeping the entire 13 colonies alive, and she just saved all 13 colonies with her indigo because she used her dad's contacts overseas to be able to sell this very expensive blue dye and make royal blue. And even think our Civil War, so with uniforms, they're
Yep.
2 different colors, right? We have gray and blue. They're both made out of indigo. The gray is just less indigo. So that's kind of where all of that stemmed from. But this was colonial times, and there was no such thing as a businesswoman. So take that for what it's worth. Eliza's, I can't tell you how many things Eliza's done for this country, but there's a lot. There's books and books and books written about this woman. But I'm giving you the basic gist. There's a lot of weird things about Eliza that you can hopefully find out with your spirit box. She was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, which means both Elizas went by their maiden name. They both start with L, and that's all I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And you can ask anything you want to about her death, how old she was, where did she die from, where did she die, where is she buried, and which U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. That's a pretty big deal. I also gave you the time period, so that should help. If you want to ask anything about the kids, just ask how many.
Okay.
Don't poke around with the kids. There's a tragedy. It gets ugly and messy. So, let's see what else. You can ask what happened to the mansion. It's pretty. She likes to talk about that too. If Charles is going to come through, I'll kind of give you the clues on the things that I'm hearing or watching. that are going to come through that are saying Charles is saying I'm here too, because he doesn't always just give us his name, he'll give us clues that he's here, things based on his life, and that's the husband, not the son and the nephew.
Okay.
So, one of the other sons likes to come through too, but it's random and it's very specific stuff that I'm like, really? That specific year? You have to tell me when you wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson? Like, but apparently he's very proud of it. So, but yeah, this is, if I were to have a grand finale, this place would be it. I've gotten full EVPs here from many different types of spirit boxes that were not radio shattered. Obviously the EMF is going crazy. I can see it out of the corner of my eye. And again, most of our night will not be this active with this kind of what we just saw in the first two locations. It's very touch and go. But again, we'll make stuff up. So let's turn up that spirit box. Let's see what we got going on. Let me see if I got anything.
Now, is it cool to stay in one place, or is it better to walk around?
It depends. So like right now, this is a hot spot, but where we're standing is where the slave quarters were. So I don't know how much answers we're going to get from Eliza and Charles directly. The house was up there, garden, slave quarters. That's kind of the layout of the land. So it would probably be better to move closer to the house. That's usually a hot spot for me. Where I get dogs, can y'all tell? Very poop bags of feet everywhere.
Eliza, what's your last name? Eliza, what is your last name?
That ain't
That's the second time that you said added string.
weird. I don't know what that means.
That when we were walking over. That was one of the first things I heard.
Eliza, I have a new box with a red light. The way it works, when you get close to it, it's going to make a noise. Come close to the box I have with the red light. And the EMF just went down to zero. The EMF here went literally down to zero when I took it closer. It was at like 10 something and literally dropped down to zero. That's really low. See the difference? This is measuring everything. to get closer to that antenna. This little metal stick right here. People tell me they can't hear a damn thing on there, and you've spat out probably 50 phrases already. Something's missing on there. Thanks, Elijah. Let's get a little bit closer to it. See how the lights go all the way up? That's crazy. 26. Make it go to red for me. Does not like to take direction, apparently.
She's like, nope, I'll go green.
Elijah, touch it again. Let's go back to the purple light. Make it go purple. Charles, if you're here, get close to the box I'm holding. Right now.
That seems to be going up.
That's why South Carolina verified something that Mr. Stein.
Charles or Eliza, you've got to get close to it. So the word list app that I'm using, I will use it for sticker style and say, hey Charles, what's your name on the box I'm holding? Boom, Charles. I've done it multiple times.
How's that from the phone? Or
Probably. Probably because I'm too close to it. We started with RAN in here. Could be, I've never seen screeching before. And again, this device has 9,000 words in it. And a lot of them I see things constant. Overall, the only thing I'm excited about is the fact that this is a new noise and a new word. It probably sounds like it's screeching to them.
oh yeah.
And the word sodium. Oh wow.
Did you see that, Austin?
What?
That one.
Holy moly! That dropped fast.
Yeah. So I don't understand how, if this is creating an EMF, how...
Trade me places so you can see, and I'll send it here.
That's why I have to play with it first. So if
Yeah.
it's creating an EMF field, how is the EMF reading different than what... How is it not picking up what it's creating?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So until I experiment
That's why.
with... I got the word software,
Huh.
but that's not something they would know in colonial times.
Yeah. Eliza, how many children did you have?
Spiking again, and they drop to 0.
Is that 6? Hold my breath.
I almost heard thanks for trying. Because again, she doesn't like to always talk about her kids because of that tragedy.
Oh, so you could ask, but you said it was okay to ask how many, right?
Normally she's fine with it,
But not.
and I know how when she's fine with it if she gives me the full number, but sometimes she'll subtract one.
Oh.
That's crazy.
What president was the pallbearer at her funeral?
hmm
What president was the pallbearer at your funeral?
not moving.
Yeah. But
And I tested it by blowing on it to see if like wind or anything would influence it too. No, I'm a smoker. I blew smoke right on it.
yeah.
And that's the thing, is it's super low.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's giving me Morse code. Would you hear?
I'm not sure. A couple words and then explore.
Do you want the? I can pull up the Morse code thing for you if you want to see if it is, but
I think that would be something I'd have to do on my own investigations.
Oh.
You gotta remember, I do this
Yeah.
6 nights a week. There's no way I'm putting a Morse code together for somebody.
yeah, nah. I just didn't know if you could like look at it and see if
Just
you
jumped
hear
up
it
to
or.
4. It's at 3.93, and then went down to 0.89.
Wow.
That's crazy. I got a lot of questions with this thing. Like, there's too many.
Yeah.
What were some of the questions again that we could ask?
What happened to the mansion? What happened to the mansion?
What happened to the mansion? Sorry, you probably just heard you ask.
Means everything to me. Eliza, tell us what happened to your house here.
Something press?
I thought I heard something president.
Oh, president. Please?
Nothing that's relatable.
Next door.
You guys ready for these answers? Because there's quite a bit of questions there. So, try to turn it down.
Wrong way.
Sorry.
It's alright, it happens.
I just like giving her crap.
Yeah,
so.
he does that well. Signal, it was loud.
Yeah. Shut up, Bernie. So, the mansion burned down 1861, which would have been after Charles and Eliza's death, but it was obviously still in the family. And it was in the Great Fire of 1861, which means Charleston had dozens of fires, and it was always the Great Fire of whatever year it happened. This one happened to go from peninsula coast to peninsula coast, and this place was just in the crossfire. So, it's been a restaurant since they're supposed to put a commercial hotel here, and they've never done an archaeological dig here. So there's no electrical lines underneath here. They don't know what artifacts lie here. They don't know anything of what's underneath this ground right now. And when they put the hotel up, they're just going to put a cement slab and throw it down. No dig, which sucks for Charleston. Because that's a lot.
Yeah.
Eliza died at the age of 70 from breast cancer that we know of. So we're talking colonial times, late 1700s. So we have to just go by our medical records. And she was in Philadelphia, either up there for breast cancer treatments or on business. Again, depending on which story you read. And that's where she died, which is also where she's buried, in Philadelphia. So again, begs the question of why don't we visit cemeteries? You're not hanging out where you're buried.
Right.
She comes down here to give us answers. Let's see, she had 4 kids. Charles, Thomas, George, and Harriet. Only 1 daughter. So lately I've been getting a lot of things wrapped around like writing and letters. Things like that, like pencil and pen, ink, paper. She used to write letters back and forth to Harriet because she lived in the Myrtle Beach area. She married in Horry, and Myrtle Beach is in Horry County.
Right.
So just prominent family to prominent family. Let's see, what else did I have you ask? Oh, George Washington was the pallbearer. So we've been getting the word wood here a lot. And last weekend, the weekend before, my daughter was on the tour. She's like, wasn't there a president associated with wood? I'm like, yeah, I think that was Lincoln. She's like, I'm pretty sure it was Washington in his teeth or something.
Yeah.
So we looked into it, and definitely he had wooden dentures.
Yeah.
So, and we had it again the next night. So it's kind of like, okay, that's the way Washington wants to come through. That's what we're going to do. I've had his initials before. I've had the full EVP of George Washington twice in 1 week. That's actually how I learned about that whole pallbearer piece. And that was from the tours. It wasn't something I learned ahead of time. Oh, it's definitely a Friday night, for sure. I think that about covers it. Charles, when he likes to come through, he'll tell us what Republican Party he was part of. We either get the word Jefferson, which is a name, or Republican. He was part of the Jeffersonian Republican Party.
Okay.
He was born in October and died in October, so October will show up twice. I've had that happen multiple times. I've had his name come through and I've asked for it. Again, he doesn't always like to give me his name. He just likes to give me little clues about things he's done. Thomas, one of the sons, he'll give me which battles he's been in. He was wounded in the Battle of Camden, which was just south of here, near Beaufort. And we get the words like kneecap, wound, you know, those kind of things. I've had the words battle and Camden in the same night in this location before. I was like, I didn't know what it was until like, my mom was like, Thomas, you know, Pinckney, Battle of Camden. I didn't even know Camden was a thing. Boom, there it is. Yeah, get lots and lots of stuff out of here. So again, we'll have to watch the video and listen to the spirit box and kind of see what comes up in the morning. I think you've heard a lot of terms along the way, which is good. So we'll kind of see what happens. From here, we're actually going to walk up about 4 blocks to go to Lodge Alley. Lodge Alley, if you're going to listen to your spirit box, we'll probably chat because it's just a small group, it's recording. But I'm listening for names. I'll explain why once we get there. The EMF, if you guys are going to notice that it's going to go off on East Bay Street, it's from the parking meters, so you can almost ignore it. I mean, it's still going off now. But again, that one measures all 3. I don't know what the new one measures. So again, lots of research I need to do. That's why I'm just kind of experimenting. Questions, comments, concerns so far?
No.
A lot different than what you're used to, isn't it?
Yes, but so much more fun.
It's so much, yeah, it's so cool.
So,
I might become a regular.
Oh yeah.
So what I'm thinking about doing by the end of summer for, you know, obviously fall season, is there's obviously a lot more that I can do. We're only going to be covering barely over half a mile. And I know like this next stretch is kind of 4 blocks, wow, holy shit. But we're not going to be going much further than that. What I'd like to do is I don't want to lose the heated warning of headaches and all that from there. I also don't want to lose this place. So I want to get into the Edgar Allan Poe and Annabelle Lee story, but that's like another 3 blocks away from my final stop. So I kind of want to see, I'm going to have to walk it, record it. Like when I'm down here during the daytime, I'm such the nerd. I got all my gear, I'm recording everything, and I'm stopping and just recording what I would tell people.
Sure.
You know, and then I'm watching the clock. Like my wife comes with me and she's just like, your research to me is just ridiculous sometimes on how you have to. Actually happened again the other night. Like somebody just barely touched it and it just flopped out. I tried to convert that over to a tablet, but you need an OTG adapter and it makes the video slower. And it didn't turn out really well. And not to mention it's a tablet and I had all this weird foam around it, like the foam covers, and I designed a foam thing for the camera so it wouldn't drop. It was a nightmare. I was like, I'm just gonna keep it to a handheld. So I think it might be just time to replace the camera.
I still feel bad that you have to splice 3 videos together, but
Honestly, dude, because here's what happens. I don't know if you've ever worked with editing before.
not really.
On my drive home, because the hotspot is on my phone, I'll upload them to YouTube. So when I get home, all I have to do is download them, throw them in my software, like back to back to back.
Yeah.
And then upload it back to YouTube.
The closest I've done to stuff like this is editing like audio stuff, and that's pretty much
And I do that
it.
too for my podcast. So being the nerd that I am, the writing and the podcasting, like you become a software editor too. The problem is I'm in college, wrapping up a master's degree, so it's kind of like I don't always have time to do. I haven't had time for a podcast episode in 6 months. I have 4 investigations sitting on my desk that I just haven't put up yet, and it's kind of like I haven't even gone through it yet because I've been trying to wrap up this stupid degree so I can be done with it already. And it's writing a whole new book, so the wife is looking for a cover, so I have to consult with her.
Right.
And it's a lot, so I'm trying to get it done by the end of the year. But I graduate in July, but I have to have it mostly completed by July for them to give me my certificate.
Right.
So, but anyway, I'm a busy guy, as you can
Yeah,
tell.
it sounds like it. My goodness.
Yeah, man, I have kids. So,
How old are your kids?
oh, they're practically grown. I shouldn't even say that. So 20 and 15. So my 15-year-old, when she's down here from Myrtle Beach, she's on the tours because she knows all this stuff
Yeah,
too.
that's cool.
Actually, half this stuff used to be hers. So,
That's fun.
yeah, I took all her shit back.
Mine's he'll be 22 in July, and I think they're gonna always be kids, and we're always gonna be raising them.
I know. July what?
13th.
Okay. London is July 6th. So I have a Halloween baby, which is my 20-year-old, and then London was almost a July 4th baby.
Nice. Well,
Hmm.
I'm sorry. I thought I was going into labor on July 4th, and that's his favorite day.
We
of the
couldn't
year,
get the
so-
doctor to take London on the 4th because he was going to be out of town. So she was obviously early.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was very tiny.
Yeah.
So both kids were premature. They both came out at 4 pounds. Like,
Wow.
they were small kids.
Yeah.
Tiny. And they're both like this tall. Like
Huh.
even my 20-year-old is this tall.
Yeah.
She's like 4 foot nothing.
That's
So
funny.
yeah. they're
Well,
just-
my doctor had told me that for, I don't know, by the time I hit like 6 months, she said you're going to be at least 6 weeks early.
Wow.
So we were planning on that.
Yeah.
He was born on his due date. I'm like, really? So by that point, he was 6 weeks late in my mind,
Just means
right?
that-
Because
yeah.
I knew that he was supposed to be early, and so when it came on time, I was like, no.
So something must
Yeah.
have, like, there's a reason why you were born on that day. Because
Right.
of course the star charts and zodiac and moons and all that mess lines up, and there's a reason.
Yep.
So I was born on the last day of February, the year before a leap year. So
Huh.
everyone says, "Oh, you're a leap year baby." I'm like, nope, you're a year and a day early. So, but yeah, it happens.
Yeah. My doctor had told me that in that year, he was the only baby that was born on the due date.
Wow.
She said that, and she said it was very rare, even that happened at all, but
Yeah.
especially when they were expecting him to be so early. So, yeah,
If we can be anything, we should be efficient.
yes.
Let's go find another spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to like push it up a little bit. I don't want to get it right there.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 2 years. Been getting a lot more like repeats.
Yeah.
So I have like a special discount for them. Like just call me. You know,
Well,
you're
I
gonna
wonder if you could set up something for regulars that
I
you know
do.
you charge more but do a longer tour.
Well,
That-
I also have
that you could hit
private
some of those
tours.
other spots.
I do private tours on Mondays because I'm open 6 days a week for this.
And,
So the private tours are set up for like bridal parties,
Yeah.
and yeah, I do charge them more,
Yeah.
just because they're going to be growing annoying.
right.
So
Dude, I'm just saying, if I move down here, you're gonna see me like every other week.
I'll just call you when I'm going to go do my own stuff. You can come along with that. I always need an extra pair of hands.
Dude, I would love to help with stuff like this. This is so cool.
It's different. It's
Yeah.
definitely different.
Yeah.
Like TV makes it all seem like it's scary, but
Come on. Let me go. That's half the reason why I wanted to do it this way. Is because I want to show, like, this isn't a scary thing.
yeah. And I think it like doing stuff like this is so cool. Like even if you don't get anything, it's like we were a family that hunts and fishes and stuff.
Sure.
So like stuff like this it's ghost hunting. You don't always get stuff.
Right.
So but if you only go once and never do it again, then there's not a possibility of you ever getting anything.
Right. So, again, I have my weaker tours. I've yet to have a tour that didn't have something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can always relate something to what's coming through one of the devices.
Yeah.
Also, with TV shows, we'll try to, like, use one device at a time. I'm set up for 10 people plus me.
Yeah.
I throw everything I possibly can at
Yeah.
it. Because that's where your evidence is going to come from. I don't want one device to go on. I want multiples.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nah, this stuff is cool.
Yeah, these are the nights I like. Nobody, I don't have to dodge around here.
Connection between those two.
We probably won't run into any other tours tonight. I I've seen a couple other tour guides that are going back to the cars already. They probably did some early tours.
So do they do stuff, not obviously like this extent, but do they do like walk around ghost tours too?
They
Or
do, but it's storytelling on a street corner
yeah.
to go sightseeing. So
No, that's yeah. I wasn't saying that it was like this, but
yeah,
like
nobody does anything like this here. Not even close. I won't say that I don't have a whole lot of friends in the tour guide industry, but I don't have a whole lot of friends in the tour guide industry.
here, I'll walk behind
I
since
think
I'm
it's
using this.
business.
Yeah.
Good timing.
I want you guys to keep in mind this corner for a second. This road, we're actually going to end up there, and that's where we'll end. But this road in particular, and right across the street there, this is where the original Charlestown walls were.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
going to reference that quite a bit over the next few stories. Is a megaphone underneath the car really necessary?
And putting a 5 or 4-inch lift on a sedan. It's nice.
The ones that get me are the trucks that are.
Yes.
Oh,
I told you about those.
are you talking about the ones that look like Tonka trucks? Or
No,
Ford Monster trucks?
they're lifted in the front and lowered in the back.
Oh, those are so dumb.
Yeah, it's like, what else can you do with daddy's money? Respecting adult is going to be doing. You know,
I'd get a small lift on a truck, but what's
No,
the
but they're
point of
like-
not
no,
having
they're
it
not
level?
Like that. It's like
No, I know it's slanted. It's not
I
level.
don't think that when you're sitting in the driver's seat that you could actually see over the hood
Oh.
with the tilt the way.
How is
It makes no sense.
cops just not care down
That's
here?
not a thing. That's not a or a decoration.
He put it off.
Instead, he put it off. Really?
Does that mean anything to you?
Not really. But it's very interesting that you have that many syllables. He put it off. That's what's going on. Sorry, English guy. I gotta look at like what the context is.
Yeah.
How many syllables do you usually get? 1 or 2, or
It
even that?
depends. So if it's a disembodied EVP, it could be anywhere up to 4 or 5 syllables. If it's a regular sentence, I mean, I've had 6 or 7, but that's somebody saying something very quick.
Yeah.
So you've heard how quickly it flips through those stations.
Yeah.
And that's slowed down.
Yeah.
So it's going to give you the gist of why this alley is one of the first streets we had in Charleston. Let's go ahead and turn it down. This is actually a quiet area anyway, because we're next to the Lodge Alley Hotel. So it's named after this alley. This is one of the first streets we had, which means these 2 buildings weren't here. They had little shotgun houses.
Yeah.
So people used to live here. They had the full list of residents and their occupations. So the names I normally get are Benjamin and John, and they both lived here in 1801, and there were only 5 people that lived here during that time period. This is 2-3 weeks ago now. 2 different spirit boxes running. They both heard the name Johnson. Turns out that the John I just spoke of, his last name was Johnson.
Huh.
So I was like, no shit. That's really cool. So they both heard Johnson. I'm like, I'll take it. But the Masons also used to meet down here. So I get the word Mason down here quite often. I never know what I'm going to get.
Sure.
So with the pictures, I get light anomalies all over that my wife can't explain. So just so you know, her daytime job, Toja Shorts at Best Buy, but her position, she's the cell phone manager. And having a major in photography and graphic design, she knows every damn cell phone camera out there. So if something goes a little wonky with that, she's first thing we're going to ask is, what kind of phone do you have? Like, that's just what we do.
Yeah.
You have an iPhone 11, it's prone to blue dots. We know that. So again, we're always asking like what those things are.
Now, are there places that are better than others to take pictures, or?
Depends.
Yeah.
I've gotten stuff at pretty much every location.
Yeah.
Between shadow people, lights, moving, orbs, all kinds of things. But I do get a lot of, like, I have shadow people from the Pinckney Mansion site. I've got shadow people here. I have a light moving at the end of this alley and then wisping away from somebody's video that they took on their phone. And, like, it doesn't go with the same movements. You know, I test things frame by frame.
Yeah.
How I roll. By the way, you can smoke on this whole tour. I'm a heavy vapor.
Okay,
So
well,
Yeah, we are
I
too.
learned to not vape on my tours because it offends some people.
Yeah, well,
So
it won't offend us.
No,
if
we
you
don't.
want to, please.
Yeah, if,
I just might take you up on that. But we're getting into that more popular area. Wish I would have known that back at Pinckney. But we're getting.
Oh, sorry.
no, we were. I was gonna do it, but I was like,
Well, I look at it this way. It's your tour. You guys want to smoke? Like you want to bring them stupid booze pops with you. I don't give a shit. I'm that guy.
yeah, no, we don't care.
My wife just got me this new unit, by the way. I love this thing.
Yeah.
It's a Smock 160, I think. And the pod is huge.
Yeah.
Love it. I only have to refill it once a day now. I smoke
Nice.
a lot. So I'm a heavy smoker.
I'm bad, but I'm working because it's just so easy. You don't have to go out and take a smoke break. And
Mine is when I'm playing video games or driving.
I work for an hour and a half a day. So I smoke all day long. So
Yeah.
if I have to drive over, like today I helped a friend out. She owns a, what part, you said you lived in like Clements Ferry area?
Yep.
So there's a flower shop in Somerville
Okay.
called OK Florist.
Okay.
And when I was driving Uber during the pandemic, she was ordering a lot because she had nothing else to do. Nobody's
Right.
buying flowers. And I just help her out from time to time with deliveries. She's like, you can help me out.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
that's all I did all day today. I mean, she paid me under the table.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't put that on audio. But
Hey, no taxes, man.
Cut that out.
yeah, but at the same time, like, she called me yesterday and she said, can you come in at 10 o'clock? I'm like, well, you're lucky I canceled tours because of a stupid storm. Because nobody's going to book, you know, Charleston by now. Like,
Right.
our weather gets ridiculous
Right.
and people get...
Yeah, I was amazed how like everything
There's
closed.
nothing.
Our apartment complex office is closed yesterday, and
Yep,
they said
mine
they
too.
were doing remotely today, and I'm like,
Yeah. My
he
kids...
just had 26 inches of snow at
And
his
they
house
closed
last
down.
week, and
And
everything
it was
open,
closed for Sunday when it was like the worst of
because
it
it was blizzard.
because it was whiteout conditions.
Right.
But then the very next day they were like, "Yeah, you open. Be there at 4 a.m." And I was like, "Come, dude, no, stop that."
So living in Ohio, I worked in downtown Cleveland for probably a couple of years right after
Uh-huh.
high school, and we had whiteout conditions, so no buses would run. You
Yeah.
don't drive downtown Cleveland,
Yeah.
you know, especially straight out of high school. So it's kind of like, shit, how the hell am I gonna get home? So I literally would have to hang out downtown Cleveland because you're right there on the lake,
Yeah.
you know, so you can't really go anywhere. But anyway, back to this place, I guess. So the people that lived here, they actually did an archaeological dig in between the clay bricks you walked on. Hopefully you didn't trip over.
Uh-huh.
But they found out that they were lower class people from their tools and silverware and some of their clothing. And it makes sense because that's the water over there. So those buildings you see wouldn't have been there. All the stuff we have on the outer edge of the peninsula now is all man-made. So even some of the dirt, like it's grown.
So we went on a carriage tour today too. Is that what they were talking about on the seawall?
Yeah. So again,
That's cool.
the small low tide would have been coming through here is my point.
Mhm.
Because nobody that's above lower class is going to be living somewhere where low tide is going to be hitting them really hard,
Yeah.
especially in a shotgun house. So, but we're going to cut through the rest of this alley, but it is a neighborhood once we get to the edge. So we're just going to be 3 family members walking through ghost hunting very, very quietly because some people are winding down from their day until we get to our next location.
Sweet.
So the next locations are, you've probably seen a lot of it on Carriage Rides today. So
Our tour today ended up down along the Battery.
okay, yeah, 'cause I know they have to like route them.
Right.
Speaking of Battery, have you been ghost hunting all over Charleston or just
most
in
part.
this area?
No,
Do you get anything over by Battery Park or no?
no. I consider it not hunted actually.
I just didn't know since that's where all like the cannons fired and stuff. If that's
Well, when I was down there, I was actually working on another project, and I decided I had my gear in the car. So my wife said, "Go get the gear and let's see what we can find." But I was working on. I don't know if you're familiar with The Secret by Byron Price, with the 12 treasure hunts. There's one here in Charleston. I've already dug once. The city actually gave me permission.
Really?
Yeah.
that's cool.
So I have to get my GPR in set first, and that's next week.
I don't know what my phone's doing.
That's
What
so.
is
That was cool.
What did it do?
It like froze and it looked like it was like a Polaroid.
It switched to I have never used this feature in my life ever.
And she had it on like portrait mode
I had it on
before,
portrait mode, or
and it
just a regular
switched to that. And then when she took
I-
the picture, it flashed and it looked like a Polaroid developing.
mode. Let's see if I can put it again. So it's gonna go back. So I.
But it was so much slower
It has
than
never
that.
done this before, ever.
So I used to have a route where I would go to the Philadelphia alley, and people's cameras would act up all the time. We're literally half a block away from it.
Okay.
Because
'Cause
like it literally looked like it went like white screen, like right when the flash would hit, and then it slowly developed into a picture like it
Yeah.
would on a Polaroid
It's
camera.
crazy. I wonder if anything's going to show up in that. I'd have to look at it, like analyze it. But yeah, we have to go through. Obviously, that was the guy walking, but
Yeah.
look, we got a little bit of a white stuff going on there. I don't know if that's his shirt. Looks like it might be a shirt.
Oh, it's his string right here.
Well, I meant to the right of the string. But that's,
Oh, right, like right there.
yeah. See how it kind of looking at your hair too.
Yeah.
I'm looking really at this block
Yeah.
right here.
Oh, right there. Yeah, because that should be dark,
Yeah.
and it's not.
What happens when you stare at those photos every day?
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Yeah, but
alley
I mean, I take thousands of pictures all on. I mean, and I know my camera so well.
I'm
It
not
has never done
surprised.
anything like that before.
I'm not
Like, what is happening?
Again, that alley will mess with people's pictures.
Cause no, like that was because when she had when we take selfies everywhere we go, just cause we,
Kind of our thing.
yeah
Well,
it's
always
better
just
than
been us.
yeah we go places where a lot of people usually just don't want to take pictures of other people. Like you don't ask, hey, can you take a picture of us?
Right.
So we just take selfies. And so I leaned over and it was on portrait mode, and then she pressed the picture button, and then it switched to that and did that. And I was like, your phone's wonky, dude.
I'm not surprised. Again.
That was cool.
It was cool. Even if we don't see anything, you just
Yeah.
the whole idea.
Unless Apple pulled a fast one on us and was like, hey, the
No, I
next
haven't done the
no, it was
update.
like the next iPhone is coming out.
Be a Polaroid iPhone.
Yeah.
We're the test group.
And these hot hands are like the best invention ever. Like my wife brought these home from work for me. She said, try these out on your tour tonight inside your gloves. She's like, might as well.
Dude,
With me
hot,
writing as much as I do,
Yeah.
hot
carpal
hands are
tunnel's coming. My hands have
Oh,
to stay
I'm
warm.
sure. I'm sure.
Like my wrist has been bugging me
So
all
what
day.
is a hot hand?
So a hot hand is basically like a little chemical packet that heats up.
Oh yeah. Okay.
yeah, they're
Okay.
hand warmers.
So you just
Oh yep.
shake them up and I toss them in my gloves. And they keep
I didn't
my
know
hands
they
warm.
made them that little.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, yeah,
They come in pairs. So
We-
you can shove them in your gloves.
we
Nice. I've only
bought-
got
you-
the big ones.
no, you bought small ones for me when we played in
It's the most beautiful
I
place.
love these.
when we played in why can't I think of it? Fort Collins, that
Oh,
playoff game when it
yes.
was
Miserable.
you ran to the gas station and bought those
Yes.
hot hands.
I didn't realize they were the little ones.
Yeah.
Well, they have them like fitted for your shoes now.
Yep.
Like all kinds of stuff.
Did they have
The ones that are like
the coolest
2
thing
or
I've
3
seen?
inch squares.
Yeah.
We've got those, and then they have one that's like a 2 by.
The
2 by
coolest
3.
thing that I've seen is when I worked at Cabela's, they had, I'm gonna slip between you. They had like heated rechargeable socks.
Anything?
And they were like $200, but their socks, I had a battery pack on the elastic on the calf,
Yeah.
and it's a really thin battery that you just plug into a USB cable and it recharges them, and they heat up to like 98 degrees.
Really?
I just got a text from Greg. It says, now I see why we never would have worked.
Bro,
What does that even mean?
my man is probably half a
Oh,
bottle deep
oh,
in
yeah.
his feelings.
Yeah. Sorry, that was random.
I
Would
don't
you
even-
say you'd say he's pretty intoxicated?
I would say so. So this is kind of like your legend and lore portion.
Okay.
Okay, so we started with Lodge Alley, and of course you're going to see the larger groups around here because this is a very popular area. But I'm going to point out things that they'll never point out.
Okay.
So the alley that you guys just took a picture of down there, that's the wall on the other side. That's the right-hand side of the wall. So if
Okay.
you notice, there's a doorway right in the middle of that.
Uh-huh.
So that's where duels used to occur. So the loser of the duel, if there was one, they would pick him up and they would bring him through that doorway over this courtyard and then over to the cemetery where they're all standing. So they would drop the body and then go celebrate the winner. That's
Did they already have the grave dug?
yeah.
That's
Sometimes
so
they do.
cool.
But again, you have to remember, not all duels ended in death.
Uh-huh.
Most times the gunshot was either in the air or into the ground. They were just there to prove a point. If we do have anything related to that alley that shows up in the spirit box or on anything that we're doing tonight, I'll definitely give you links to my story on Philadelphia Alley. It kind of gives you the gist of the duel that occurred. And I used to take people down there, but it's a no tour zone,
Yeah.
and I got caught. So pretty much every other tour guide stopped going down there too. We all used to go down there.
Is it just because it's a residential area and
It's
that's why?
residential at the end of it. So,
Okay.
all the stuff down here obviously belongs to the church and things like that, but towards the end there's some homes. So new neighbors moved into town and obviously we can't go down there.
Yeah.
So the story that they're telling up there, which they're making it very big and dramatic like Zach Bagans, I'm going to give it to you in about a minute and a half. So there's a sign right inside the church cemetery that says there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost. Okay, do you know the story already?
No, but I took a picture of that sign
You did.
and sent
Yeah.
it to
Well,
him.
there's a reason why it's there.
Okay.
So in 1888, a young lady died by the name of Sue Howard Hardy, and she died 6 days after her stillborn child. So 1987, we have a local photographer in town. He's taking pictures of all of our beautiful cemeteries. He captures a full apparition with a woman wearing a shawl and a baby basket next to her. It's 1987, so there's no cell phones and all the Photoshop mess that we have now, so he has to send it to Kodak to try to get it debunked. And what happens from there is Kodak cannot debunk the picture. So the picture is cursed. I don't show the picture on my tour because women that hold it will get the symptoms like I told you about back at Big John's. And if they're a pregnant female, then they're not going to have a good pregnancy. You can imagine I'm very superstitious. I'm not going to be flashing that picture around. If you want to look it up on your own, the name is on the audio. But apparently that light that you guys see on that big tree over there is actually facing that group on purpose because they don't want people like me up there with cameras and video and all kinds of stuff. It's meant to actually disrupt people from taking pictures up there. So again, lots of legends and
They
lore
don't
on
want
this.
anybody to have an experience.
No, it's a church.
So is the do you think that it's the picture being cursed is actually cursed, or do you think that it's just like
part of the
placebo effect?
It's
Just part of the legend?
yeah, and it's not something I'm willing to risk.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I just didn't know if you have shown it at any point and had it actually happen to people on their tours or not.
if I do happen to put a link in it because the name Sue came up or Hardy or something along those lines, or stillborn while I'm telling this story during this time frame, I always put a heated warning. Click at your own risk.
No, I just didn't know if you've actually shown the picture to a group and they've had those symptoms or not had,
No
and then
personal
texted you back. And
No.
so I was just asking you if for a personal experience
Right,
if you
and
had any.
I just-
So
I've been involved with the paranormal pretty much most of my life, good and bad. So there are certain things that I'm not gonna mess with.
yeah.
I know what to stay away from. I know what I'm capable of doing. I know all of that stuff.
Thanks for that phone when I was 13.
What's that?
You can tell him.
When I got to middle school, I never was allowed to have a smartphone until I got to middle school, just because everybody was, when I got to middle school, they did everything online like how they're doing now.
So you had to have one?
So I had to have one. And she bought it off, was it Craigslist or?
No, I
what
bought
did
it
you?
new.
Oh, you bought it new? But I think that there was a bad attachment to it. And so it got I don't know. You remember a lot more than I do, but I don't remember like any of that whole
He
year.
ended up having a I believe with everything in me that it was a possession scenario. And it was the scariest thing I've ever witnessed in my life. He doesn't, like, that whole 2 or 3 hours gone. He doesn't know any of it. He has no idea what happened to any of it. And a voice that was not his, and like, it was just insane. And we'd had just having weird things happen, just behaviors that were just not normal.
Like I have
And I
anger
ended up
issues,
going-
but I would never like hurt family.
Right.
But I was willing to fight my
And it was
grandpa,
only
and
ever
I'm
when
terrified.
he had the phone in his hand.
And I'm terrified
I
of my
ended up-
grandpa.
Electronic device.
Yeah. But I ended up going to somebody at our church, and she happened to be someone that had really studied a lot with demon stuff and whatever, and so she suggested that I destroy it. Well, yeah. Well, I thought that was a little bit, I don't know, I was like, that's a little extreme. So I didn't do it. I put it in, just turned it off, took the battery out, and I had it in the glove box or the center console in the car. Had more weird things happen. Like, I'd run out of gas, but it would show that I had a half tank, or like just weird stuff. And so finally I ended up taking a hammer to it, and I just smashed it to smithereens and never had another issue.
I've had issues with black mirrors before. Had issues with certain types of spirit boards. I don't like the term Ouija boards because it's a little commercial Milton Bradley for me.
Right.
I use one now, but I know what to expect.
Right.
I know that I can be channeled. Again, with the epilepsy, I'm the weak-minded one always. So that's why I usually tell my people, don't worry. Like, a lot of people are like, is something going to be coming home with me? I'm like, look, they're coming home with me if anybody. Because again, even though I might be your expert on technology, I'm not.
Sure.
I'm the one that they're going to attach to because it's easy for them. Have I had dark things come out of my tools? Sure. That's why I carry these little satchels now. If you guys notice, but I got little black bags all over that are just filled with grounding stones.
Yeah.
And I get them blessed by psychics.
Yeah.
Every 6 months or so to kind of resalt them and kind of do what they need to do. And I really haven't had an issue since I started carrying these. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
They're all inside the bag, in different pockets, around different equipment.
Yeah.
Just keeps everything grounded.
Yeah.
Keeps everything happy.
Yeah.
So even though some stories might be bad, like it's
Right.
Still
Sure.
my baby,
Sure.
I'm not getting anything attached. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was times I went to my car and I can't drive,
Yeah.
and my hands are clenched and nobody saw them because
Yeah.
they're in my pockets.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
usually heavily medicated because of my epilepsy.
Right.
But there are times I got back to my car and I can't see because my eyes are going
Yeah.
squirrely like they would as if I were in
Yeah.
a seizure.
Yeah.
And I have to send my wife a text. Like, do we have like 3 letters that is kind of code? Like,
Right. I
Yeah.
need help. Come get me.
yeah.
Or
Well, it's just
or just-
need a minute
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
thing. Just give me a little bit of time before I call you on my way.
Yep. Yep.
So, and that's when she called all my psychic friends and said, Nick needs some help.
Yeah.
His occupation is to put him in a little bit of a hazard.
Yeah.
He's not disturbing anything,
Sure.
but he needs some help. Because most of the time when I take him home, it's something that my guest brought.
I can see that.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, let's,
Well, hopefully, if I, for some reason, still have that, he stays with me. So,
I think that's been long gone. But
yeah, destroying things and cracking them. We're actually going to cross the street just to stay out of everybody's way.
Okay.
But as we cross the street, look to your left and look at the burning gas lamp. I'm going to tell you what that is.
Okay.
I really try to stay out of all the other stores' way because they're so very commercial.
yeah.
So, like, if somebody passes by, like a whole large group of 20, I just stop and let them pass. I don't try to take their business on the street. So, this is the other side of the cemetery. There's 2 different sides. That side we were on is where native Charlestonians. This is for everybody else. This is also where Calhoun was buried because they didn't know that he wasn't native, so he was moved several times. So he was in a sarcophagus. They literally just picked him up and moved him across the street until they figured it out. The burning gas lamp on the other side that I told you guys to take a look at, that's the pirate house. Did they point that out on the Paris story? You guys come around?
We didn't come this way, I don't
Yeah,
think.
we did, but
Oh, we did?
He was talking about, excuse me, about Calhoun.
Okay, yeah.
Is that-
history guys will always talk about Lake Calhoun a lot.
I was paying attention, but
Remember
I
he
don't
had
remember.
talked
Which one is
about-
Calhoun?
The 17th vice president.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he had talked about how he had been buried and moved back and forth.
Yeah.
I guess I was
Not paying
watching.
attention.
I was watching the horse, not listening to that part. I listened to every other part besides that one. But
So
Yeah.
the pirate house is allegedly where Blackbeard's men would come off the ships, meet with a few girls, have a few drinks, and then they dug a tunnel underneath the pirate house 1 block over to Dock Street Theater, because Dock Street Theater at the time was basically a whorehouse and playhouse.
Okay.
So you guys are all adults here, I can
Yeah.
use regular terms.
Yeah.
I don't have to PG it. So we know that the hole underneath was a real thing because they just filled it in the 1990s. So Blackbeard never set foot on our soil, those kind of things. And I'm kind of prepping you for the whole pirate thing going on. I'm going to skip the Nettie Dickerson story that's in Dock Street Theater, just because there's a lot going on here, and not having a reference of where Dock Street Theater is. It's exactly 1 block away from the pirate house.
Okay.
Somebody lives in the pirate house.
Huh.
You can't miss it though. It's got a big anchor on the front though.
Okay.
So he just doesn't like doing his backyard. Don't ask
So,
me if that's from experience.
with the tunnel, did they know about it before 1990 and just didn't fill it in, or did they find it in 1990 and then fill it in?
Think about it.
That's cool.
So it was just kind of
Like, hey, this is still here.
yeah, it's still here. But that also being a playhouse, you have to remember, pirates are really good at tying knots. So they
Yeah.
went over there for a quick buck. They go over and help with, the ropes and that kind of thing, and moving sandbags or whatever they had to do. So they would work.
Yeah.
They also had a few ladies on the side. But there's a whole big entourage with stories with Dock Street Theater that I don't have enough evidence on. I tell the stories normally, but I really want to dive into this, especially with the new millimeter. I want to spend more time here than I normally do. I usually only spend about 10 minutes here, but I think we're going to push it to 15 to 20 if we can. So this is the powder magazine. Did they explain that to you?
No, but we learned about it some we did the city jail.
Okay.
Is that the one that exploded? And
No.
they were talking about somewhere else then.
There's another powder magazine that did explode. So
So
he's
that
correct.
was okay. So then that
So
was it.
this one, I told you that this was Cumberland Street where the Charlestown Wall was.
Mhm.
So it stopped about half a block away from the powder magazine and then came across this way. So it's literally in the corner on purpose. So that way if it were attacked through the 32-inch thick walls and actually explode the gunpowder inside, there's sand in the roof that's supposed to blow up and then drop down.
To
And,
put out the fire.
right.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't work because obviously the other one exploded.
Yeah.
However, this one still has all the original sand in it because it's too far away from the water. So they couldn't really hit it. And not to mention, gunpowder was moved constantly. So it wasn't like gunpowder stayed here for very long, maybe a few days, maybe a week or two at best. This is the oldest government building we have on the East Coast. It was finished in 1713. It took almost a full decade to finish. So construction started roughly around 1703 from the records that I found, and was finished and established in 1713. It's now a museum. It's actually really cool in there. It's just a quick little 30-minute, $5 a ticket type thing to do while you're down in this area. But during the time period that this was built is where the story comes from, because we don't have many buildings that are this old, which is why they go to this passage. So there was a young lady that moved here from Ireland with her dad. Her name was Anne Cormack. Did you guys hear the whole Anne Bonny story before?
She might have, I haven't.
Okay, so Anne Cormack was the illegitimate child from her father and his mate. To get away from his wife, he picked up his mistress and moved here. At the time, she probably would have been around the age of maybe 11 or 12. Okay, so by the time that this building is finished, she's becoming a teenager. We have pirates coming through town. She falls in love with one of them. His name was James Bonny. James Bonny. His father didn't agree with him very much. So basically, he picked her up and he moved her to Jamaica, and they got married. So now Anne Cormack is now Anne Bonny. So when you look up female pirates, Anne Bonny's number one. So he's not the pirate that she was hoping for. He's not the cool Johnny Depp character that we all know and love, right? So he's a privateer, which basically means he's a spy for the British. She's like, you're a coward. So she falls in love with another pirate that's in town. His name's Calico Jack. Calico Jack is a new and upcoming pirate. He's about to be awarded his first ship, and she wants to be part of it. So he says, okay, you can be part of the ship. You could be a female in my quarters, but you have to dress like a guy to be part of the crew. So she's like, okay, that allows me to be a pirate. Let's do this. So she's still married to James Bonney because Calico Jack tried to buy off the dowry, and he said, no, I'm not doing it. So she's married to him this whole time. This little story is kind of long. So there's a lot going on in here. That's why there's so many clues. And by the way, this is like the expert level of you guys are going to be able to ask whatever questions you want to. I'm not going to do the suggestive thing. So she joins the crew. She's allowed to be female. Eventually she gets pregnant. So what's Calico Jack do? He drops her off in Cuba. He says, go have the baby, come back to the ship dressed as a man, and we'll figure out the whole baby thing. Well, she comes back to the ship, no baby. We don't know what happened to the baby. But she's dressed like a female because she no longer gives a damn about hiding her gender. Which, now Calico Jack's pissed. So she starts flirting with the prisoners that he captured while she was away. One of the people that she was flirting with turned out to be another female pretending to be a male to be part of that pirate crew that she was captured from. Her name is Mary Reed. So it's always Anne Bonny and Mary Reed are the story you'll find. So she convinced they two become friends. She convinces Mary to become part of the crew, and then the ship gets attacked by the British. So it's Anne Bonny and Mary Reed are the only two pirates that are not protecting the prisoners down below deck. So it's them two ladies fighting off the British fleet. Obviously their ship gets taken, and they are all tried for piracy, except for Anne and Mary. They get tried a week later. Now all of those pirates are already dead and hung. It's just these two ladies left, and the judge wants to see them separately because they fought back. So they reveal their gender. He says, I don't care, I'm still going to convict you for piracy. And then they plead their bellies, which means they both claim that they were pregnant. So they said, okay, you're still convicted for piracy, but we're going to delay your hanging until the babies are born. Well, Dad, here in Charleston, still has money from Ireland and bails out Anne. Apparently, there's two versions of the story from here. She comes back to Charleston, remarries, has 4 children, then moves to Virginia and dies at the age of 84. Others say that she stayed here, remarried, children of 4, died at the age of 84. So it just depends on where she moved to. Again, why we have such specifics, there's too many holes in this damn story. That's why I want to dive in further. Mary, however, dies in jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Use your imagination for whatever you want to imagine she had. She was English, by the way, whereas Anne Bonny was Irish. But she was considered the first and only Irish-American pirate. So,
Even though she was English.
no, she was Irish.
But
Mary
she-
Reed was English.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were still talking about Mary.
So,
Okay.
what do I get here? I get Save My Child, I get Irish, I get things that deal around wine and rum and alcohol all the time. And the reason why pirates drink so much alcohol is because they didn't have any fresh water. So, again, big misnomer there. I honestly didn't even want to do this story. I didn't believe it. I was like, it's stupid. There's nothing related to Anne here, but it makes sense with the time period. And until I started getting my own evidence, because remember, I used to take people down Philadelphia Alley, and then we go to a whole separate location towards East Bay Street. I never wanted to come up here because of all of this, what you guys just saw.
Right.
And now, I kind of have to. But I'm getting more and more every time I come here. So this is a place, and the 2 things that I told you I caught over the past week on your camera happened here.
Okay.
So 2 very unexplainable pieces of cold air going across somebody's body and then dissipating. I can't make that shit up. It is what it is. So, but we're going to try to get close to that building. Did they explain earthquake bolts to you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the very first earthquake bolts we put up in Charleston. Those crosses you see,
Oh, yeah.
they're not crosses, they're earthquake bolts.
I wondered because there are a couple other buildings around downtown that have those, and I was like, well, they got crosses sideways. Like,
What's interesting is I like to show that off here is because the apartment building behind the Powder Magazine, because it's apartments, that big brick building, also has earthquake bolts, but they're modern. So they're square plates with a bolt in the center, whereas those are like iron braces that are curved now from weathering and things like that. But again, I don't know what year those, it was probably put in 1887, the year after a big earthquake, but that was the first building they went after because it was the oldest government building. Now, because you live here, the pink house is 1 year older. We just don't have any record of it.
Okay.
That's, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Not legitimate.
Yeah.
So the pink house was finished in 1712,
Okay.
and it was many things, including bars, taverns, whorehouses, bathhouses,
Right.
you name it. It's been all kinds of things.
Okay.
But again, that's the oldest building we have. This is the oldest government building.
Okay.
So just so you guys get that clear.
Okay.
But, we're going to get closer, and we're going to turn up the spirit box a little bit. Not too loud for the apartments. And hopefully capture a few things. Show up the front if you guys have never seen it before. This is a dead zone for the regular EMF meter. So it's already 0, and this starts to be a
That's the first time that I've noticed this whole time where it's not been doing something.
The person who has this in a group of 10, I usually tell them, this is a dead zone. If you get anything, you need to scream at me. Like, I want to see it. So, and test it to make sure it's not. So look, take 0 here.
This is so much fun.
This is so cool. Thank you.
Actively punishing.
Actively punishing? Nice. So here's the other cool thing, is that my name will show up here from time to time. And why is that? It's because the Chief Justice that tried them was Nicholas Laws. Now, you'll hear Chief Justices, people, other tourists talk about Chief Justice, the first, that takes first one here. His name is Nicholas Trump. He was the one that hung the Bonus pirates
Okay.
down by the battery, which is what I was hoping for when I did my investigation. Of course, he went that weekend. So, but you'll hear the name Nicholas a lot when it comes to Chief Justices, because those were roughly the same time periods. And Nicholas Trott, the one from here, was the first one in the United States. Now, they say his house was on the other side of the Carter magazine, but he only stayed there for a short period because he was getting ready to move in where Dock Street Theater is now. It used to be a home. So when you visit Dock Street Theater, the elevator in the back, that used to be his privy. So you're basically going up and down on where he used to take a shit. Like, that's what that is. I listen to a lot of podcasts to get the history right. And a lot of it comes from the Charleston Public Library.
Yeah.
Like Nick Butler, that guy's amazing.
Really?
He is just a plethora of information.
Huh.
Like, it can be a little dry if you're not into Charleston history or know the locations he's talking about.
Okay.
But like, when you're down here every day and you hear the stories, it's like, because I'm always looking for stuff like along my tour when I'm listening to his new episodes, you know, to see if I can tell a new tale. But that's where I got that
So
Nicholas
is
Trump.
his stuff on, like, you get through the library website or YouTube or?
Google.
Okay.
So I use Google Podcasts for pretty much everything,
Okay.
just because that's one of the main hubs for mine. I mean, I'm on everything. I think I have 10 different stations, like, between all of them. But yeah, I listen to mainly Google because it goes with my system at home. The way it works at Best Buy, everything is a smart something.
Right.
So
Right.
everything
What's
runs
his
on
name
Google.
again?
Nick Butler.
Butler. Okay.
Yeah, he actually tells stories really well. And and stuff you wouldn't even think to hear about.
Okay, my mind just went blank. What's her name again? Mary
Anne,
and
Bonnie,
Anne.
and
Anne
Mary
Bonnie.
Reed.
Okay. What happened to your baby?
I didn't hear anything. Boys school. That would have been the time we were talking
There's
about the
been
church.
40 words since we looked last time. Group was the last one. Can you see?
Palatine.
Gianna.
I'm not really seeing anything of relevance, I'll be honest.
Huh.
I'm really not.
Seeing anything what?
Somebody give me the definition of Palatine. Like, that's something religious, isn't it?
I think so.
I'm not one of those guys that pretends to know everything, so.
Let's see here.
What is the word?
Palatine? Palatine?
Having royal privileges or of relating to a palace.
the word speech. So what that means to me, Anne Bonny had a specific line that when they were being captured of what she said to Calico Jack. Said, you could have stood by me through this like a man, but now you're going to go down like a dog. So that's paraphrased, of course.
Yeah.
So if you hear the words like go down, dog, like those are very specific terms.
Okay.
Terrible. Specifically. As stupid as this app is, I love it. Yeah, specifically is very generalized. It's not very specific. But if I get the word dog or hound or something along those lines.
Well, and you were just talking about how, I don't remember the exact word you used, but it was meant specifically.
Right. There is no EMF here at all. So whatever is touching this thing.
And what happened to your baby? On the road
Be
today?
more specific. What happened to your first baby?
Oh, and what happened to your first baby?
And I've gotten the answer of Cuba here before with that question.
They're attackers?
I don't know. Not on the baby that I know of. They were attacked by the British. So if I get the word British. And look at that. Just started going green as soon as I said British. So you guys can see. I mean, I'm still at 0. And it feels colder over here, even though it's warmer.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, I have a chill down my neck. Again, I don't normally put my feelings and thoughts into this because I'm not Zach. But it does feel colder over here,
Yeah.
but we are a couple of degrees warmer.
It definitely feels way colder here than it did at the fence. They're even farther away, but
This is open, like Pinckney Mansion.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't shivering over there.
Yeah.
Here I'm shivering.
yeah.
Resolution. Anne Bonny or Mary Reed, if you want to get close to this box, you can make it go into a noise. I'll never use terms of things they don't know what they are. I don't know if you guys caught on to that.
Yep.
Box, metal rod, lights, colors, things that are going to be universal from that time period. We're talking 1720 at this
Right.
point.
Mr. Christian.
What was the other one's name? Her
Mary.
friend, Mary Reed. What happened to Mary Reed?
Temptation.
Truly
Seen, soon, old.
Congress. How did Mary die?
I like the fact that that's going backwards. Like, I feel like we're getting more out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys don't listen to this every day, but I'm noticing more coming through. So if anybody's here, all you have to do is get close to this metal rod, and it'll make the lights go on. Flash. Get close to the metal rod, like this.
baby a boy or a girl?
It's almost like this thing has to be perfectly upright and perfectly still before you get any kind of decent reading out of it. Production. That just showed up. Again, I got
Production.
no EMF here.
Mary, was your first baby a boy or a girl?
Yeah, it said nobody knows this program.
We don't know if she doesn't know. That's the problem. The temperature's dropping. We're down to 49.9.
Oh wow.
I usually get excited about 5 degrees. So when it drops like 5
So-
degrees.
For the
I'm holding it perfectly still.
What were you gonna say?
I heard murder.
I was just saying for the FLIR, it just does temperature of objects, right? Like it doesn't take into account
No,
air
it'll take
temperature.
into account ambient temperature.
Okay.
Why is there something happening?
No, it's just if it's 49 degrees on that, it's still just keeps going between 50 and 55, like not consistently, even though I'm
So
pointing at the same
This
object.
can also be set up to where if it drops 5 degrees from what it's been averaging while it's been on,
Wait, it's going up. This was at 4.4.
then that little yellow thing will flash up.
Okay.
Because yeah, like I'm pointed at the brick wall at a constant spot, and it keeps going from 55 to 50, back up to 55 really fast.
Did you see it when it hit 44?
It went up to like 0.29 when it was making that noise over there. There's one again.
That's two. One with the number and one
Yeah,
spelled
one
out.
written out and then the numeral.
It was O-N-E and then the number 1.
Normally I'll get that when we ask which president was a pallbearer.
Ah.
I've gotten that before.
Oh, that's cool.
Terry. Doesn't mean anything to me. No Terry pirate that I know of. Probably a pansy if he was.
What was the second one? The
His real name was John Rackham, but he went by Calico Jack.
Calico Jack.
And I've had the word calico come up on this before, here.
Huh.
So I always remember the date of her trial because it was the exact 300-year anniversary of when I started bringing people here. November
Okay.
28th, 2020. Her trial was November 28th, 1720. So I had the number 300 that night. I've had trial come up several times.
That's
There was also
cool.
the Save My Child night that came up. I'm like, are you kidding me? I didn't even want to bring him here. And I told him flat out, I'm like, I had to reroute this tour. We're going to test
No.
some things. It's crazy.
One.
Again?
Uh-huh.
And if you only had one baby and all the stories are not true, get close to this device like this. Get close to the box with the red light. It is staying at a steady point. Oh, it just changed. 0.08. I'm not getting anything else out of this.
What happened to Calico Jack?
For the word what?
Dog. Because it's very specific in every store.
No, I just wanted to hear you say it again. My hearing isn't very good on this side, so.
It's okay.
That was always, as a kid, I was dumb and shot guns without ear pro, so I got.
I was
Bad.
a musician, dude. You don't have to tell me.
And what happened to Calico Jack?
I heard 4660. Connor? That's like spelled like a last name though.
Uh-huh.
And we had Terry just before it. So Terry Connor. If I had a Terry Connor on my tours, they'd be shitting themselves right now.
Yeah. Where did you live in Cuba?
One more come through and then we'll call it.
Be quiet.
Or she's telling us that she's going to be quiet. So, how many times did you guys end up with here? 77. I averaged 55 on a 90 to a 100 minute tour. I haven't even looked at the time to see where we're at on stuff, but I'm interested in this number one that showed
Yeah.
up twice.
And then I heard it on here after
Yeah.
that too.
It's just giving you time. It's 10:55.
Oh.
I don't even know
We're
what time we
probably way
started.
over.
I don't look at time. I'm not that guy. I'm not, all right guys, 90 minutes, your ghost hunting is over. You know what I mean? And Bonnie's not going to be here past 11. She's making appearances only. But I'm the guy that if we have activity, we have activity.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's start collecting those gadgets. And I'll get you guys my card.
Do you want me to just stop
Yeah,
it?
hit the